You found yourself on another edition of Let 'em Know Kings United, and on today's episode, the Cleveland Cavaliers started strong, but ended weak as a big third quarter gave Milwaukee a comeback win, while the Sacramento Kings got off to a slow start in Atlanta, but a big second half leads to a strong finish as the Sacramento Kings grab a much-needed 7-point win in Atlanta. We got a lot to break down right here on Let 'em Know Kings United. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and the Chicago Bulls. This is Let 'em Know Kings United. Let 'em know, Nation, you already know what time it is. Welcome to the second to last edition of Let 'em Know Kings United for the year of 2023. This, of course, is your Cleveland Cavaliers, Sacramento Kings, and Chicago Bulls post-game reaction podcast. And I'm your host, Scarlett Weisberg. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into today's show. And you can find Let 'em Know Kings United, which is 100% completely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, or wherever else you want to listen to this show. Give the show a follow on those platforms if you can, please. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you want to listen to this on. It is a great way to support the podcast, and I appreciate every single one of you, the members of Let 'em Know Nation, that have tuned in to this podcast since the Let 'em Know Kings era, or new members of Let 'em Know Nation that are just finding this show. I thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being a part of Let 'em Know Nation. Going into this first game that I'm going to talk about here, the marquee matchup was Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard versus Donovan Mitchell, which, oh, by the way, Donovan Mitchell returned to this game after missing 4 games by a mysterious illness. I don't know which one it was, but I know it's not COVID related. I think it's kind of like a stomach bug or a flu or something, but whatever the case was. But the Milwaukee Bucks outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 40-21. 40-21 in the third quarter, and allowed them to take it over the Cleveland Cavaliers by a final score of 119-111. That puts the Cleveland Cavaliers 18-14, but this was the first loss for Cleveland since, or actually, I should say, the Cavaliers fell to 5-2 since the injuries for Evan Mobley and Darius Garland that was sidelined until February. Craig Porter Jr. scored 14 points playing 9 minutes in the fourth quarter. All of his 14 points came in the fourth quarter. So I admire the Cleveland Cavaliers for trying. I admire the Cavaliers for making a valiant effort to come back. However, you are facing a really tough task in defending Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. It is clearly a challenge trying to guard one, if not both of those guys. And the Milwaukee Bucks stepped up their game, especially in the second half. It was a tale of two halves for both of our games, as the Cavaliers came out of the first half, came out of the gate they came out of the gate feeling like that they were the better team. I felt like that they were the better team in the first half. They were controlling it. They were setting the tempo on defense. They were setting the tone on both ends. They were locking down stops. We were forcing Damian Lillard, that had 3 fouls at one time for the most part, to be a driver instead of taking over the game. I felt like we didn't do a good job of containing Giannis Antetokounmpo. But you know what? Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to get theirs. And when the Milwaukee Bucks outscored the Cavaliers 40-21 in the third, they erased a 15-point deficit at one time and take the lead for good. And now the Milwaukee Bucks have the third best record in the NBA at 24-8 with the Minnesota Timberwolves and the gold standard of the NBA, the Boston Celtics, right behind them. The Greek Freak said, when you put the basketball in the hands of your 2 best players, you're going to get good results. If you want to double team Dame, then I'm going to be open to make a play or get the ball to my teammates. That is a very difficult challenge for Cleveland or anybody trying to defend Damian Lillard and the Greek Freak. I mean, when you double one, it leaves the other open. Like if you double team Giannis, it leaves Dame open. Vice versa. If you double team Dame, like Giannis talks about, it leads a guy in Giannis Antetokounmpo open, and obviously, if you leave Giannis open, they will make you pay by a heartbeat. The Spider came back and dropped 34 points with 9 rebounds and 6 assists for Cleveland after missing 4 games with an illness. Jared Allen, he continues to be hoping on offense. He scored a career-high 30 points and 15 of 17 shooting and had 12 rebounds and 6 assists. That part I am really happy about. But defensively, especially in the second half, I felt that the Cleveland Cavaliers absolutely collapsed. They collapsed this game, especially on the defensive end, especially in the second quarter. I heard Austin Carr on the broadcast talk about how the Cleveland Cavaliers were turning the ball over. They were not only turning the ball over, but they became stagnant. They became complacent. They became one and done on offense. In the first quarter of this game, they were moving the ball around. They were stressing ball movement and making Milwaukee work. From the second quarter on, they played to the Bucks' hand. It was almost like the Milwaukee Bucks weathered the storm in the first half, and then they obviously took control in the second half. But here is the big story for me. The Cavaliers shot a season-low 14% from three-point range, missing 37 of 43 attempts. And LeVert and Niang, which is supposed to be their best three-point shooters, let alone Max Strus, they went 0 for 6 from three-point range. 0 for 6! I'm pretty shocked about that, to be honest, because if you're a sharpshooter like Georges Niang and Karis LeVert, you obviously got to assume that some shots are going to go down for you, right? But if the shots weren't going up, like Cleveland was not shooting well from three, they were making a brick house with how many threes that they missed. I'm surprised that the Cavaliers kept shooting threes and kept settling for jumpers instead of getting inside in the paint. Now, sure, like I mentioned earlier, Jared Allen went crazy. He has been hooping lately, and I like to see that. But on defense, the Cavaliers made so many mistakes, it's almost mind-boggling that I gotta talk about this. First and foremost, the Cleveland Cavaliers, the coaching staff specifically, J.B. Bickerstaff, Sidney Lowe, Luke Walton. I'm calling the three of you out because you are absolute garbage. You don't know how to coach a defense. You really don't. You really don't. You're allowing the Milwaukee Bucks to get open on screens, and the only correct time that you iced a screen is when Isaac Okoro did it properly. Jared Allen, you don't know how to get over the top when you ice a screen. You don't know how to hedge properly. Luke Walton, Sidney Lowe, like, what are you doing besides sitting on the bench? How come you can't coach the defense to force the Milwaukee Bucks to get action off, to force the Cleveland Cavaliers to hedge? force us to hedge a ball screen so we don't leave Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, Malik Beasley, and especially Brook Lopez, who is a pick and pop specialist. Like, KYP, know your personnel, Cleveland. You didn't know that Brook Lopez was a pick and pop specialist, and and you allow him to take over the game? Let alone Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, because I knew they were going to get theirs, right? I knew that with the all-star caliber players that they are, they were going to get their buckets. But my God, the defense for the Cleveland Cavaliers was absolutely abysmal, especially in the second half. That is just garbage. That is garbage and horrible coaching. Sidney Lowe, Luke Walton, JB Bickerstaff, all three of you need to take this loss and go back to coaching 101. Because if you don't know how to switch properly, if you don't know how to call for an ice on the screen, if you don't teach Jarrett Allen how to hedge properly, you're not going to go anywhere. The Bucks, who went 3-1 in a 4-game trip, will play just one home game during an 8-game run that ends January 6th in Houston. Key off-season acquisition Damian Lillard is averaging 26 points per game over the last 6 contests. JB said something about Damian Lillard. Dame is a guy who can single-handedly take over a game. You can't stop Giannis and him, so you have to figure out how to balance your defense. It is a challenge, and clearly, it was a challenge for the Cleveland Cavaliers because they didn't know how to handle that. Honestly, they didn't know how to handle that. But the Greek Freak gave a lot of praise for Jarrett Allen, who made his first 9 shots and scored 18 points in the first half. Antetokounmpo had 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 19 minutes. The Greek Freak said about Jarrett Allen, man, he's tough to guard. His stats have improved so much. When a big guy like that is making jump shots and shooting these hooks over you, there's nothing you can really do to stop him. Like I said, Jarrett Allen, you have been hoping, and you have improved so much offensively, and I like to see that. But on defense, though, you did a terrible job of getting over the top on screens, and you didn't know how to hedge properly. Defense as a team, the Cleveland Cavaliers failed that, especially in the second half. If you played a competent defense and not allowed the Milwaukee Bucks to score 40 points in the third quarter, then maybe this game would have been a close win. Not a blowout win, but it would have been closer than 119 to 111. Just terrible defense by Cleveland, especially in the second half. And I think the turnovers, which, by the way, Cleveland, you had 8 turnovers. Whole game. The Bucks had 17 turnovers, and you didn't even capitalize on that. Sure, you got 16 points, but you could have had more. You could have had more because you don't know how to value possessions on offense. Turning the ball over consistently and not playing like Cleveland Cavalier defense. That's what costed you. All credit to the Bucks. They're a veteran team. They might make some noise in the Eastern Conference. I have them going deep into the playoffs, but they shot 51% for the field, Milwaukee did, including 41% from 3. The Cleveland Cavaliers shot 47% for the field. I don't even have to tell you how bad they shot from 3-point range, because they have been making brick houses from 3-point range tonight. The rebounds were 43-37 in favor of Milwaukee. The assists, 28-26 in favor of Cleveland. The points in the paint were 64-52 in favor of Cleveland. I mean, that was to be expected. That's Cleveland's identity this year. And the fast break points in the game were 21-12 in favor of Cleveland. But the biggest story of the game was Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo took over. On top of that, the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't play defense in the second half, and they didn't even value possessions in the second half. That's the biggest reason why the Cavaliers, to me, collapsed this game. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 34 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal. He is unstoppable. Damian Lillard went absolutely crazy. He dropped 31 points. He was 11 for 11 from the free throw line with 4 assists and 2 rebounds. A plus 14 for Damian Lillard, a plus 12 for the Greek Freak, and also Malik Beasley, 15 points. He was 5 for 8 from three-point range. Every three-point shot he shot, you already knew it was going in. He also had 5 rebounds and only 3 turnovers. And by the way, Brook Lopez, he had 9 points. He didn't do much as far as the offense, but 6 big-time blocks. 6 blocks. He was a bigger enforcer than Jarrett Allen this game, to be completely honest with you. And Jarrett Allen, this is no fault of you because you had a great game on offense. But as far as defense, Brook Lopez cooked you. I gotta be honest. Despite the fact that you dropped 30 points and had 12 rebounds, a double-double, which is nice. But 6 blocks for Brook Lopez compared to 2 for you, Jarrett Allen. That's just the biggest difference for me. But you had 6 assists and he was 15 of 17 from the field. You've been hooping, so I'm not gonna go too crazy on you. Spider, welcome back, buddy. You dropped 34 points with 6 rebounds and 9 assists with 2 steals and a block. You almost had a triple. I thought, you almost had a double-double if you grabbed your 9th assist. Craig Porter Jr. had 14 points, all of them in the 4th quarter, but the biggest story for me is the Cavaliers did not do a good job of playing defense, especially in the second half. When you leave a good Milwaukee Bucks team with open opportunity to take over a game, especially with Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's what's going to happen. All credit to the Bucks, but the Cavaliers are still an improved team. I'm not going to go completely off on them because they have been improving lately, but they got to toughen up on a defensive team, which now is going to Toronto that have now just got without OG Anunoby because he has been traded to the New York Knicks, but they got Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett, so we're going to see how the new look Toronto Raptors gel against a veteran Cleveland Cavaliers team. I'm very interested how they are going to look maybe tonight against the Detroit Pistons. And by the way, Detroit, for the life of me, do me a favor. You have a golden opportunity to break the longest winning streak in the NBA. Don't waste it against a new-look Toronto team, okay? But coming up next, the Sacramento Kings looked absolutely, coming up next, the Sacramento Kings looked like garbage in the first half against the Atlanta Hawks, but Deaaron Fox and the bench played a critical role as the Sacramento Kings started slow but finished strong in the ATL. We're going to talk about a Kings win when we come back on Let 'Em Know Kings United. Welcome back to Let 'Em Know Kings United, everybody, and I need to be completely honest, and I need to be completely straight up with you when I talk about this Sacramento Kings and Atlanta Hawks game. First of all, like the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks game that I just talked about moments ago, it was a tale of 2 halves. It was a kind of game where Atlanta had us in the first half, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, though, I immediately thought when I saw the score at the half, and it was 71-53 in favor of Atlanta, I was like, oh, Lord, help me to control my anger. I immediately thought that the Sacramento Kings were going to fall into another trap where once again they get blown the bricks out of Atlanta, and they were going to head into the New Year's Eve test against the Memphis Grizzlies with John Morant back, by the way, embarrassed and absolutely disgusted. But the Sacramento Kings, and more specifically, the MV freaking P, Deaaron Fox said, we ain't falling for this again. We ain't falling for this sugar honey iced tea no more. As the Sacramento Kings came out in the second half and outscored the Atlanta Hawks 64-39 in the second half. You didn't get that? Let me rewind that for you. The Sacramento Kings outscored the Atlanta Hawks in the second half 64-39 as they beat the Atlanta Hawks 117-110 in a monumental, huge, much-needed bounce-back victory after laying an egg against Portland. Now, I understand that the Sacramento Kings are a team that they got punched in the mouth. They got embarrassed in their last game, but they know how to bounce back. They know how to respond after losses. My one issue is this becoming a trend. And I'm starting to believe that this is becoming a trend for Sacramento. It could have been a good trend the way that I think of it, because most of the time when we lost embarrassingly, we find a way to win, which is good, and I'm really happy. But can the Sacramento Kings learn how to play a complete game and when they get a big lead, sustain it? That's like my big issue with Sacramento. It's not that the Kings are not talented enough to take a lead and sustain the leads. I get all of that. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Sacramento Kings are frauds. I am not going there. We are 18-12. 6 games below 500. We are in a great spot. We are in great shape. I think we are in the 5th seed in the Western Conference, if I'm not mistaken, and a half game back of the LA Clippers for first place in the Pacific Division. We are in a really great spot. I am not saying that. But what I am going to say about the Sacramento Kings is I'm getting a little worried that every time when we get into a deep hole like we are, we're constantly digging ourselves back into games. It's hard to play that way. I do not want you to be the Chicago Bulls of the Western Conference. And no offense to any member of Bulls Nation out here listening to this, but I'm just being completely straight up honest and sometimes telling you the truth. But speaking of the Sacramento Kings, shout out to the bench, because the biggest thing that I found really impressive, the bench, after getting walloped last game in Portland when you got outscored in the bench 65-17, if I'm not mistaken, against the Trailblazers. You came back and you dropped 44 points off the bench. Sacramento did. That's really impressive. We outscored Atlanta in the third quarter 33-20, and in the fourth quarter 31-19. I mean, that's really impressive. And you know what's also really impressive? The way that Davion Mitchell said, we got punched in the mouth, but we didn't fold. Davion Mitchell, he has not seen the damn floor in quite some time. He got replaced, benched, and Mike Brown, as a good coach that he is, replaced him with Keon Ellis. No disrespect to Keon Ellis whatsoever. I think he brings a breath of fresh air for the Sacramento Kings. I can't even speak without fumbling my words right now. That's how rusty I am in recording this podcast, the second to last podcast of 2023. Why am I fumbling my words right now? But Davion Mitchell showed up and showed out. And the Sacramento Kings played hard throughout the game. And Mike Brown gave Davion Mitchell the defensive player of the game because he balled out. I mean, you could have argued that he could have gave it to Trey Lyles, who dropped 19 points, who was absolutely outstanding. Malik Monk, 15 points, being an absolute spark plug that he is. Chris Duarte with a huge corner 3 to potentially ice the game for the Sacramento Kings. But I want to talk about the two superstars who combined for 77 some odd points against the Portland Trail Blazers the other night. And I was completely on them. I was on them because I said a couple of shows ago that they are not acting like leaders. They're playing like leaders, but they're not acting. They're not holding their teammates accountable. Mr. Deaaron Fox, like I said, if he's not in the MVP conversation, what in the HE double hockey sticks are you doing with your life? If you have not watched the game of basketball and saw Deaaron Fox play, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? You better ask somebody, because Deaaron Fox, first name Deaaron, last name him, was straight up cooking, especially in the second half. He scored 26 of his 31 points after halftime of the fourth quarter, as the Sacramento Kings came back from a 23-point first quarter deficit, which at one point it was 31-8 Atlanta. 31-8 Atlanta, and the Sacramento Kings were able to come back, scratch, claw, and get a big-time win. And for the second straight game, Mr. Fox set a career high for made three-pointers. He made 7 against Portland on Tuesday. And he was like, okay, 7 is fine. Oh, wait, we're going to the ATL? Let me top that with 8 threes. 8 made threes. He was 8 of 16 shooting from beyond the three-point line. I mean, if Deaaron Fox is not in your MVP list, what are you doing? Like I said in the last show, I said Tyrese Halliburton is in the MVP conversation, and rightfully so. But you better put Deaaron Fox in there, because I see 4 contenders for MVP, or a couple of contenders for MVP right now. Obviously, Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks because he's him. Obviously, Damian Lillard because he's a big-time scorer. Obviously, Luka Doncic because he's going absolutely crazy. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he is an absolute stud. Tyrese Halliburton, the point god. And you better put Mr. Fourth Quarter De'Aaron Fox in there, which, by the way, is on track for winning his second straight Clutch Player of the Year award. Crazy. And what's also insane is the Kings trailed for most of the night, and we're down 14 with 8 minutes to play before closing the game on a 24-5 run. In the fourth quarter specifically, the Kings shot 67% in the entire fourth quarter, while Atlanta was stone cold in the final 5 minutes of this game. They were limited to 27% from the field. Credit to the Sacramento Kings, especially the defense. They tightened it up, especially late. And in the first half, I'm not going to lie, I thought Atlanta was going to run away with it. They shot the living tear out of the basketball, especially from 3. Shout out to Bogdan Bogdanovic. And Clint Capella was grabbing every single rebound that you could muster. But Sacramento was able to pull together. Sacramento was able to stick with the game plan. And Sacramento bent it, but they did not break, as they got a much-needed win in Atlanta. Mike Brown said they were giving him the 3-ball. They were giving the 3-ball all night. He's shown he can knock that shot down. That's a big night for him to set a career high in a game this close with that many attempts. That shows he could be a special player in this league. Correction, Mike Brown. He already is a special player. And about the effort, he said it's just a huge defensive effort. And by the way, the Sacramento Kings held Atlanta to 39% from the field for the entire game. Last time I checked, Atlanta is a team that shoots threes and scores 100 points every single game. But they were exposed against the Chicago Bulls when they overplay on defense, and that allows open back cuts, that allows cuts to the lane, cuts to the paint. Sacramento recognized that and said, hey, let's expose them on the defensive floor. When Atlanta overplays on defense, we can take advantage by cutting to the paint. And that was exactly what happened. And the Hawks were rolling early, like I said, building a 31-8 lead in just over 8 minutes. All 5 starters scored in the first 6 minutes for Atlanta. The Kings gradually closed the gap thanks to Malik Monk, who had 13 first-half points off the bench. Malik Monk said he was just trying to provide a spark, but he is the human spark plug for the Sacramento Kings. And the Hawks ended the first half on an 8-0 run in the final minute. And Hawks starter DeAndre Hunter, the starting forward, missed his 6th straight game with right knee inflammation. Can I just give credit to the Sacramento Kings defense for containing Trae Young and Deaaron Fox late in the fourth quarter? You were talking all kinds of smack in front of Trae Young's dad. You were giving him the smoke business. I'm speaking of Trae Young's father here in front of the Atlanta Hawks bench. As soon as he made a shot, he was like, uh-oh, it's time. I'm gonna cook. Let me cook now. I said, let him cook. And oh, by the way, legendary Sacramento King player Chris Webber and his family were in the building to see Deaaron Fox go off. That is amazing. But I gotta go off on 2 players. Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter, what the hell are you doing? Huh? Especially Kevin Huerter. Only 2 points? Only 2 points? Let me talk about the stats and let me talk about them later. 51% for the field for Sacramento, 39% for the field for Atlanta. All credit to the defense. The 3-point percentage, 38% for Sacramento, 35% for Atlanta. Slim advantage for Sacramento, but slim nonetheless. The free throw percentage, obviously Atlanta has that advantage. I've been saying all year that the Sacramento Kings are not going to go where they want to go until they learn how to knock down free throws and knock down free throws consistently. I don't know if they do that at practice, but that's none of my damn business. The rebounds were 51-38 in favor of Atlanta. The assists were 35-29 in favor of Sacramento, which, by the way, the Hawks out-rebounded the Sacramento Kings offensively 18-5. Clint Capella played a big role on that. So I'm not going to sit here and fault Atlanta for that. I'm going to give credit to Atlanta because they were the better rebounding team. But at the end of the day, when you have a superstar player in Deaaron Fox who is clutch in the fourth quarter and have bench players like Trey Lyles, Chris Duarte, and Davion Mitchell that came up really, really huge, I mean, that's all that matters as long as you have the W, right? The steals were pretty even with 9 steals apiece. The blocks were 4-3 in favor of Atlanta. The points in the paint were 52-40 in favor of Sacramento. Fast break points 11-8 in favor of the Atlanta Hawks. As far as who stood out for this game, the Sacramento Kings, you already know where I'm going with this. Mr. Fourth Quarter, the MVP in the league right now. I don't care what anyone says. Deaaron Fox is in the MVP conversation with 31 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and 4 big steals. He was making a lot of big plays on both ends, and you love to see it. If you haven't seen Mr. Deaaron Fox play, y'all better watch him against Memphis on New Year's Eve, because we are going to have a big-time clash before the ball drops at midnight, because we will have Mr. Deaaron Fox versus John Morant. If that's not must-see TV, I don't know what the hell you doing for New Year's Eve. Instead of watching Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, you better watch John Morant versus Deaaron Fox on New Year's Eve, because it is about to be crazy. Domantas Sabonis, you already know where I'm going with this. Mr. Double-Double, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Another efficient performance for him. Trey Lyles, it was Trey Day off the bench, 19 points, 6 rebounds, and assists. An efficient night for Mr. Lyles. He shot 4 of 9 from three-point range. Malik Monk, the human spark plug, 15 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. The 6th man of the year, absolutely no questions. Chris Duarte, 5 points, 4 assists, including a huge 3 from the corner to ice the game. Davion Mitchell, I know he had 2 points in only 13 minutes, but he got 2 assists and he played hard, and that's why he's the defensive animal of the game, according to Mike Brown. But there are 2 starters that is starting to become a big, big problem. Kevin Huerter, in 10 minutes, you only have 7 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, a plus-minus, a -5. You are so inconsistent, it is unbelievable. I think it's time for Sacramento to change their starting lineup and change it really, really quick. Because if you ask me, I think Chris Duarte deserves to be in the starting lineup. And speaking of a change of the starting lineup, what the hell are you doing all game long, Harrison Barnes, for 12 minutes? And the only 2 points that you knocked down were your only 2 free throws. That's pretty much it. Like, I love what you've done for Sacramento, Harrison Barnes. But you in the starting lineup along with Kevin Huerter, that ain't it. That ain't it. If it was up to me, I would put Chris Duarte in the 2-guard spot and maybe give it to Trey Lyles. Put Keegan Murray in the 3 or Trey Lyles in the 4 or vice versa. Because Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, as much as I love those players, they are too inconsistent, especially Harrison Barnes. All he does is cardio all freaking night. And Kevin Huerter has been making brick houses every time he shoots from 3. Mike Brown, you better make a change in the starting lineup against Memphis, because I do not see Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes giving Sacramento any chance to win against Memphis. Deaaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis I can always rely on, but right now I cannot rely on Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes in the starting lineup right now. If it was up to me, I would put Deaaron Fox, Chris Duarte in the 2-guard, put Trey Lyles in the 3, and move Keegan Murray, and move Trey Lyles to the 4 spot and move Keegan Murray to the 3 along with Domantas Sabonis. That's just my opinion. You know what you're doing. I know what you're not doing, Mike Brown. So, I trust you. Alright? I don't trust Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter, but I trust you because you know what it takes to get from good to great, and we don't as Sacramento Kings fans. But I gotta give credit to where credit is due for Atlanta. Trae Young, we knew he was gonna get his 24 points, 9 assists. He also had 4 steals and 3 big-time rebounds. DeJounte Murray is an absolute scorer with 18 points. He was 4 for 8 from 3-point range, 6 rebounds and 3 assists and a steal. Saddiq Bey, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Bogdan Bogdanovic, the former one-time Sacramento King, dropped 12 points against his former team, but he was 2 for 10 from 3-point range. I thought we did an amazing job of defending his 3-point shot, but he grabbed 4 rebounds and 5 assists on the night. Sacramento gets a big time win. The bench stepped up, the defense stepped up, and we outscored the Atlanta Hawks 64-39 in the second half. You bring that energy to Memphis. You play a complete 48 minutes against a Memphis team who got smoked by the LA Clippers. Now, mind you, the Memphis Grizzlies almost made it a game against the LA Clippers in the fourth quarter, but the Clippers were able to hold on. You go to Memphis and you take care of business before the ball drops, and we not only are going to ring the new year, but we're going to light a big 2024 ball dropping beam back in the crib as the Sacramento Kings look to take care of business against a high-flying John Morant and a Memphis Grizzlies team. Trust me, you're going to have a good time watching that one. Grab your popcorn for that one. That's going to do it for today's edition of Let 'Em Know Kings United. You can find this show, which is absolutely free and available on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Radio Public, Pandora, or wherever else you want to listen to the show. Give the show a follow on those platforms. If you can, please turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode. Please rate, spread the word out to your friends, and give Let 'Em Know Kings United a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you want to listen to this on. I am your host, Scarlett Weisberg. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you right back here for the final edition of 2023 of Let 'Em Know Kings United.